Hi, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us again today. My name is Nathan Rolfe. I'm the president of the Association of U.S. Cyber Forces and your host for this segment. On behalf of the Tortora Brayda Institute and the Association of U.S. Cyber Forces, I would like to welcome you to this month's episode of our Cyber Workforce Series, where we speak with cyber professionals about their careers and journeys to help inform others in the diversity of paths within the cybersecurity industry and hopefully support you, the listener, on your own personal cyber career journey. Before we meet this month's guests, I want to share a little bit about the two organizations that make this series possible, the Tortora Brayda Institute and Association of U.S. Cyber Forces. The Tortora Brayda Institute was created to promote collaboration across public and private sectors with a focus on business, culture, and diversity. Tortora Brayda looks to reshape the develop collaboration and partnering practices with a view to improving and securing business and economies. Core concept of the Institute is their think tank for partnerships in AI and cybersecurity. The think tank has allowed Tortora Brayda to bring together experts and leaders from the public and private sectors and academia around the world to reshape and develop collaboration and partnering practices while embracing the most critical technology growth. If you are not currently a member of the Institute, we invite you to visit their website at www.tortorabrayda.org to learn more and see how you can participate. The Association of U.S. Cyber Forces is a nonprofit professional association that provides the voice for members of the cyber workforce who serve in the military, government agencies, and industry on specific cyber issues impacting national security. AUSCF is an advocate for positive change to policies and programs that better serve their membership and help minimize gaps between the private and public sector cybersecurity efforts. If you would like to learn more about AUSCF or join our organization, please visit our website at www.auscf.org. During today's discussion, while we are live, feel free to drop any questions into the chat as time allows. We will try and weave those in to get some live answers to you. And your questions and feedback will help directly shape this and future events. Today's guest is Mr. Terry Bazemore. Terry is the Chief Operating Officer of Ey3 Technologies, a Maryland-based cybersecurity and systems engineering company supporting the federal government. He's a board member for both the Cybersecurity Association of Maryland and the Let's Go Boys and Girls, a STEM education and workforce development nonprofit. Terry's cybersecurity career has included work as an information assurance engineer, test engineer, information systems security officer, and computer network defense lead, a list that only scratches the surface of Terry's background. He holds a master's degree in Homeland Security with a specialization in information security and cyber forensics and is a certified information systems security professional. Terry, welcome, and thank you for joining us today. It's only a half-an-hour program, so I'm sorry if I missed something in your bio. There's just not enough time in the day to cover it all that you've done.
No, I appreciate you, man. That was a great introduction, man. I appreciate you. I need to pay you for that.
Absolutely. So let's kick off. You've had quite the career so far, and I'm sure there's a lot more to come. Let's go ahead and start with where you're at now, and then we can explore what your path was to get to this point. Can you tell us a little bit about your current role as the COO of Ey3 and what that job entails?
Sure. So my role at Ey3 as a COO is kind of a little bit of nepotism, a lot of bit of skill, right? I say that, right? So my wife and I decided we want to start a company that would impact not only the industry, but the community. And so in doing that, we went through an incubator program called Hutch Incubator and started our business, Ey3 Technologies, just a couple years ago. In doing so, my role has been mainly to help our business to grow, not only on the industry front, but also on the community front. And so I spend a lot of time trying to find organizations that we can partner with that would not only help us to grow in our business, but also on the aspect of impacting socioeconomic impact for communities that we care for. And my day-to-day, man, in that aspect is crazy. It's a lot of building relationships, making sure that I'm, talking about our organization, talking about our company, the great things we want to accomplish, and just really getting out to meet the people. You know what I mean? And that's what my role really pretty much entails at this time.
All right, good deal. So starting a company is risky, maybe a little bit scary at times. How did you know this was the direction that you wanted to go, and what did you do to kind of prepare for this path?
I didn't, man. We made a mistake and fell into it. No, I'm lying. We
tripped on business.
Right. Just fell into the business right now. But my wife actually had been in a 1099 for a couple years. And she and I had a conversation one day. We just were talking about the best of companies that we had worked for, right? And kind of the worst, at the same time. And what we wanted to do was build some place that people love to come, right? That people wanted to work, and actually where we could form a company that can make the impact I was just talking about, right? So we have both tried in our respective roles to try to get organizations we work for to do things in the community and help out different areas, but we weren't very successful there. And so we want to build something on our own that could do that. And so, again, we started with talking to one of our mentors in the process, Delali Garasa over at Fearless Solutions in Baltimore, doing some pretty cool things there. And he just told us, hey, look, I got an incubator I'm gonna set up and I want you guys to be a part of it. So as I set that up, make sure you guys join and we'll go from there. And so we joined in. It's a 2-year program. We graduated out and then decided to hit the ground running, going after our first couple contracts. Thankfully, we got a couple, to start. That's a big part of the success is just making sure you get some money to keep funding. And got that part going, man, and haven't looked back. So, yeah, definitely scary. We often get gut punches. You get a lot of no's before you get a lot of yeses, but it's rewarding and super rewarding along the way.
That's awesome. So let's go back to your beginning then.
Sure.
You've been doing this for a while. You've got a pretty long career within cybersecurity. Was that always the plan to get into cybersecurity, coming out of school, or did you kind of start on another path first?
Man, what's my guy's name who used to paint the picture with the afro? Is it Bob Ross or whatever?
Yeah, Bob Ross. Yeah.
So my career is like a Bob Ross happy accident painting, right? So to start this the proper way, I'm gonna try to be fast. I don't want to be too long-winded on it, but Independence Day, right? The Independence Day movie with Will Smith was inspirational for me to find out what I shouldn't be doing to find my way into cyber, right? I know that's a weird way to say it, but when I saw that movie, I was a teenager, man, and was enamored with the CGI in it. I was like, man, I got to do that. I want to go to Hollywood. I want to create realistic images. And spoiler alert for those who haven't seen it, but it's really funny. I saw the movie again recently, like probably the past 2 years, and the CGI does not hold up to today's standards. But at the time, it was perfect, right? Amazing. And so I was geared towards that. I was going to go into graphic design and go into Hollywood. And I had a really close friend who came and had a car conversation with me one day and said, Terry, you suck at graphic design. Like, you can't draw and you have no passion to get better. Like, you don't even practice drawing, right? You know what I mean? So I think you should do something else that you more have a strength for. And so through our conversation, he mentioned data analysis and numbers and stuff. And I liked, that. And so he said, hey, finance might be a good option for you. So I went into finance and was happy. I was going down a career path of investment banking then. So graphic design to investment banking. Once I got to this organization called the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, I was an intern and they gave me this ungodly task of having to do like 10,000 spreadsheets to find this needle in the haystack thing. A little bit of laziness, a lot of bit of ingenuity, which that's usually the birth of innovation. I created a script that helped me to find this needle in the haystack data that I needed to find. And my lead was very pleased with the amount of time it took me to do it. It was a lot faster than expected. And so, man, thankfully to him, he said, hey, they have this thing they're offering. I just saw, it's kind of with the information technology degrees called information security, man. So you should really look into it and see if it's something you want to do. And I looked into it, man, and never looked back. But it was not the plan, as you can see. I started off building my career off of Independence Day, the movie. So definitely wasn't the plan. Definitely wasn't that.
That's that would be a unique starting point for guests on this segment. So that's very interesting. So you kind of mentioned it's like, hey, there's this thing called information security. So we take that for granted nowadays. When was this? About 2000, somewhere in there?
Yeah, it's early 2000s. So this had to have been probably around 2000, say 2003, 2004. You know what I mean? And with him being in the financial industry, he wasn't really familiar with it, and I wasn't either. I hadn't even thought that was even a career path. So yeah, it's around that time frame.
That's awesome. You said you in that role, you kind of developed some scripts, so you took some initiative to save some time. That sounds like it was outside of your job scope. Was that something that you had already known about, or were you discovering these new things and like, hey, what's this scripting language thing that I can?
So interesting enough, man. I mentioned I was in graphic design, so along the path of that, I kind of get into the happy accident of my educational journey as well, right? And so when I was taking the graphic design degree or whatever, or supposed to be taking the graphic design degree program, I wasn't following the pathway of that. I just was randomly starting to take classes that interest me, right? So I was like, oh man, they got this thing Java. I started seeing people talk about the Java class and it was cool. Like, oh, I'll take that. And C++. I was like, oh yeah, I'll take that too, right? And I started taking these information technology courses when I should have been taking graphic design classes. And so I don't know, it's just wild how just even, I guess, in my heart of hearts, I wanted to be here or whatever, just didn't know how to get there. But that helped me when I got to FERC to be able to understand how to even plan out a script and try to write a script to help me to solve the issue that I was trying to figure out. So again, happy accidents led me here, man. I wish I could say I was this great planner and I had it all planned out, but
yeah, sorry. I was 4 years old, new cyber. Yeah.
Right.
So over the years, as I LinkedIn stalked you preparing for this, you've had a lot of different roles over the years, working with different companies, and I understand the contracting environment certainly kind of lends itself to that. But was that by design to like continuously change and move into a new role to broaden yourself, or was that another happy accident?
Now, that one had a little bit of planning to it, a little bit like. So starting in my career, starting off in graphic design, of course, and then into finance, to leave for when I discovered that information security was a thing, it's something I wanted to kind of go into. The first thing I thought was I need to go work for one of the Fortune 500 companies that do that very thing, right? And so I started talking to people and trying to reach out to people that I could find who were working at Lockheed Martin. And so that was kind of planned. I did my best to get there. And a lady, I'll give her a great shout out, Terry Reeves, helped me to get my first internship at Lockheed Martin. Just by talking to her about it, I found out that she worked there. And she helped me to get in the door, right? And so while I was in there, I started to kind of make my way around and finding out more what cybersecurity was. So my first role truly in cyber was ISR. I was considered information system security rep or engineer, if you will, and helping systems to be secured. And while I was working in that program, it taught me a lot about communication and making sure that you you had the soft skills of communication, understanding people, empath, and in the process of that, I started talking more to my manager about the things that I actually wanted to do, right? And thank God for him. He said, hey, we have this program called the Leadership Development Program. I think you should look into it in Lockheed Martin. And I hopped into that, right? And so then from there, I started to really learn a lot more about leadership and what it means to be an executive and all these great things or whatever that I didn't know I would use later on in my career. But from there, once I left Lockheed Martin, I realized that I wanted to not be at a big company. I wanted to kind of see something, smaller. And I ended up at Securicon, right, where I met you guys over there, man. And kind of getting there, being in a small company helped to kind of shape some of my views and thoughts on, how to run a business and things of that sort. But it also gave me some other skills, right? I knew I wanted to kind of be a little more technical, and I saw Securicon was a pen test company. And so when I got there, I made very sure that I talked to the pen test team to kind of get some more the skills there that I wanted to get. And I quickly learned that I wasn't as good as I thought I was, and I wasn't as smart as I thought I was talking to those guys. But then moving over a few guys over into, over at Cyber, I learned so much more about BGP and data analysis stuff there. So I took that and then knew that I wanted to kind of do more in the C&D aspect. And so I ended up moving from Securicon eventually over to NES Associates, I think it was at the time, and got over to the Doden, where I got the chance to do C&D. And then moved from there. I decided that, I kind of want to do something a little bit different than the C&D piece. I wanted to go more of a pen testing field, but kind of in learning more about the cyber, the C&O testing piece, or whatever. I started here that they were starting to build more custom tools. And so I was like, I want to kind of get into that and kind of see what it looks like from that side. And then got into that and then just kept kind of progressing from there. So all those things were pretty much, I can honestly take credit in a small way and say that after the figuring out the educational path and getting into cyber, I did try to plan what was next to a degree. And kind of try to leverage the skills that I had from previous jobs to get into the next one. So I did try to leverage those and plan that.
That's great, because I'll be honest with you, it almost sounds like a little ADHD, right? Like, oh, shiny ball, pen testing. Ooh, shiny ball. Test engineering. So, but it was essentially instead of going the path of let me get a degree in this and then go do the job, you used a combination of essentially OJT and opportunity. Identify an opportunity to grow yourself that way professionally.
Perfectly said, man. Yeah, and to be honest, it probably is a little bit of ADHD, but I say the same time. I love one thing. I love challenging myself. You know what I mean? And so anytime I start to get or feel that I'm getting good at something or something is kind of in a status quo kind of thing, I do want to start to challenge. And so it was always trying to find the next challenge. And I usually try to find it within where I am. But, I knew that I wanted to kind of be exposed to more things. And I'll say this part too, for anybody who's starting off in a career, I'll say this piece. The best thing I could have done for myself early on that I didn't know to do, I just kind of fell into it, was exposure to all the different areas of cyber that there are, right? You know what I mean? And I didn't know they existed. So as I found out about them, I found about new systems within cybersecurity that I could possibly get involved in. It piqued my interest to find out more about how can I do it. And I knew I didn't want to wait. Another great point, Nate. I knew I didn't want to wait to go through and try to get a cert to do it, but just find someone who would use my past skills to allow me to now come here and hopefully, do the same great work for them. And so a little bit of talking, a little bit of, believing in myself and trying to hop in a job that I felt could work out for me.
Oh, that's awesome. So let's talk about the education side then. I mean, you have a master's degree, obviously you have a bachelor's degree to get there. I mean, how did that work? Did you use education to advance your career, or was it just something that's like, hey, if I want to be somebody in this world, I got to have degrees. Let's just do it.
That's a great question, man. I don't think I'll say it this way. Starting off, if I go back to old Terry, younger Terry, I should say, from long ago, I think my thoughts during that time was that I had to have a degree to meet my goal, right? That I had to have a degree, I had to get these certs to meet this goal. And that was pretty much what was presented to me, is that this is what has to happen. And so I did try to marry the two, saying that, hey, like, I can get this degree, I'm gonna get these certs, and then I can go get these jobs. But once I got the CISSP and once I started seeing that I actually could, leverage just the experience and understanding that I had, I didn't necessarily have to rely on those things. There are some requirements. Of course, the government has requirements, DOD 8570, and some education requirements that may exist there, but it wasn't necessarily just totally focused in that. But my educational path, go back to the actual question, my educational path, I started off with my associate's degree, and of course, as I mentioned, going into the whole graphic design piece. Then I moved into Maryland University College, do my bachelor's, and I got that information technology with a slight focus on security. I started to kind of switch into and add security classes to it once I found out about that. And then from there, my master's degree was a product of Lockheed Martin being part of the leadership development program and being in their cohort. I was able to get that through Penn State. And that one, I actually did want to go into digital forensics. Like, I was like, oh man, I want to find out. As I found out what forensics was, I said, man, I really want to do this. I think this is what I want to go into. And so I picked that degree specifically to move into that career field or whatever. So that was one that I did use for that.
And did you?
Sort of, right? So happy accident. So what I tried to do was leverage that to go into working with law enforcement, right? Trying to help with digital forensics aspect with that. I found that to be a lot harder than I expected it to be. But what I was fortunate to find out was that I have a very sympathetic and empathetic heart. And somebody very dear and near who worked around that field told me that, you can get into some very dark places with forensics. And so, especially in the path you want to go. So based on how you're built, I don't know if this would be a good thing for you, career-wise. You may really want to just, take the knowledge you have from it and see where you can apply it elsewhere. So I did abandon that pursuit because of that advice that I got from them, and then a couple others who did mention the same thing. But I did get to use it for a little bit with a local police department, trying to help and give some consulting towards it, but I never made it a full-on career or whatever that I did in that process.
Okay, so aside from that digital forensics piece, did some of the other classes or paths that you did in the education side of the house, did you actually find those a lot more relevant to the work that you're doing, or did you get most of your skills from OJT?
That's another great question, man. So I'll go back to my associate degree, right? PG Community College, they had this project for the capstone for the information technology portion to finish out with a degree in that. And the capstone for that was you had to go to an organization within the school and find a problem and present a solution, a technical solution for it. And so you had to work in a team and kind of build this out. And it was really cool because what me and my team ended up doing was we went to the cafeteria, a place we hung out a lot. Went to the cafeteria and saw how the lines were always backed up. And so we went and asked them, hey, what can help make the job easier? What can make it better? And we found that their point of sale system they were using was very old. And so we recommended a new one. They didn't take it. They didn't. This didn't end in the happiness of our project succeeded and they took it. No, that didn't happen that way. But the skill set from it was great in the sense that kind of built out my understanding of how this industry works, right? Like, you want to kind of find out what the problem truly is and then help people move towards the solution, right? And so that set a great precedence for me, not only just as an individual contributor, but then also as a leader, and then especially in the COO role. It helped tremendously in that process.
I want to kind of grasp onto that a little bit, because you mentioned earlier in the conversation the concept of soft skills. We're so used to seeing, can you program? Can you, read Splunk logs, all these types of things on the cybersecurity side of the house. But the soft skills, that ability to communicate, to understand what's being communicated, communicated to you, working with people. It sounds like that's something that is really factored into your job quite a bit, more so than the technical aspect. For the folks listening, is there anything else that you would recommend to help develop those soft skills, or just different environments or situations to seek out in that regard?
That's another great question. Good Lord, Nate, these are great questions, man.
You didn't think it was gonna be hard today, did you?
I thought we were gonna talk about what was happening on the news, and no, I mean, this is great. So, all right, you're saying other than soft skills, or the soft skills part specifically?
Like the soft skills. So, like, I mean, you kind of sounds like you fell into it, right? Happy accidents. We keep talking about that through this conversation, but we're used to seeing folks in this environment that are very introverted. They're like, oh, I just want to sit in the dark basement drinking Mountain Dew, eating Cheetos, and programming. But there's certainly that aspect of soft skills of being able to communicate, that leadership, that teamwork dynamics, being able to work with those. Is that something that you can take education formally? Is that something that you discovered during your college, or is that really something you need to seek out? Like you mentioned, mentors earlier is a key thing, and find those other resources to help develop and build those soft skills.
Yeah, great question. Yeah, so all right, so for the soft skills piece, I would say, man, like a lot of it for me specifically was trial by fire. You know what I mean? The ISA role was tremendously instrumental for me in that aspect, in which a lot of times I was the representative of many parties. So I was a representative of the vulnerability management team. I was a representative of the system owner. I was a representative of the ISO, going to talk to people to try to get all this information together to ensure a system could continue to operate. And so that job taught me that you could have the same information, the same exact information, but it has to be delivered different ways to different people, right? You know what I'm saying? Everybody doesn't get a blanket conversation about this. And so I had to understand that part. Another part on the job training gave me, and I'll speak to that part again too, is it helped me to really understand that you have to be willing to take on a different perspective to understand how to communicate something, right? And what I mean by that is oftentimes in cybersecurity, we want to believe in our story we're the hero, right? Hey, man, we're coming to save the day. We're defending all the attacks, we're blocking the things. But in other people's story, we oftentimes are the villain, right? You know what I'm saying? We stop progress sometimes, and for good reason, you know what I'm saying? But a lot of times we are the ones who say, hey, no, we can't do this, or no, we shouldn't do that, or, well, maybe we should do this a different way, right? And that's not often easy for people who have projects and other things to hear. And so being able to understand that and have a level of empathy for people, you know what I'm saying? Whatever, and empathy for someone in a process was huge for me in developing those soft skills, right? Because then I learned that, I'm not just this hero coming to save the day. I'm actually a person who's preventing them from moving their project forward. Let me take the time to talk to them and help them understand the why, so that way they better understand where I'm coming from, right? And so I think on the job kind of gave me those two pieces to marry together, which helped with the soft skills, because I started to not look at it as that I'm trying to just talk to you about this technical piece, or if I'm trying to help understand what it is that you're facing, what's going on. So now I can help you understand why I'm making the decisions I'm making, or why I'm trying to say we need to do this way. And on the job training helped me for that. The mentoring piece, a lot of my mentors, I actually don't know them in person. They're on a bookshelf. So there are really good books, and it's hard to recommend something that someone should read or do necessarily, because everyone has a unique aspect to it. But I will say something I did get involved in. I didn't stay with it long, but it helped me, was Toastmasters. Being willing and able to kind of stand up and speak in front of people. I didn't realize I had a fear of that. I actually was not comfortable with speaking to people about certain aspects. I didn't like to talk to people about things about myself personally, or in a technical manner. I just wasn't comfortable with that aspect. And Toastmasters did help me to understand that I have a voice and how to use that voice. Another thing I recommend for people now to do it, this might sound radical, I don't know, but I say, man, just use social media. You know what I mean? I think that there's a level of comfortability that comes with putting yourself out and speaking to people. And we see that now with so many individuals getting involved in that and creating a voice for themselves in that space on social media, just recording yourself, getting used to hearing your voice. You know what I mean? That's a shock for a lot of people. Getting used to seeing yourself on camera, but doing those things, helping to build up the confidence level to be able to talk and build the soft skills in that way. But yeah, I think those things are things that I would recommend for someone that can help in that aspect. Hopefully I answered the question, didn't go too much on a tangent.
No, that was great. Toastmasters is unique. I don't think we've had that brought up before on these calls. So that's awesome. From the mentorship perspective, you have any advice for how to seek out mentors? Because you mentioned it, right? Some of them are on the bookshelf. Some of them are out there in social media. You never met them. I mean, what should somebody look for in a good mentor?
Man, another good question. So my advice there would be to first identify what you're looking to do, right? You know what I mean? Because you don't want to, if you don't care about finance, you don't want a financial mentor, right? You know what I mean? So just look to find what it is that I think, even if you just have a thought or a hunch, what is it that I believe I want to do? And with that part, then seek out someone in that aspect. So I would recommend going on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is an amazing resource for finding a mentor. You can go on LinkedIn and be okay with people ignoring you or getting some no's, especially somebody you don't actually know or is not in your network group, right? But reach out and just somebody who's in that space, type in the career field you're looking in, type in the specific career job that you're looking for, and see if you can find people in that or someone that you may know maybe knows that one who can introduce you. Other than that, I say, man, YouTube and social media are great aspects for that. I don't mean to put YouTube in a separate category, but YouTube for the aspect of the videos. Look at different cybersecurity based, podcasts and other things, and reach out to those individuals, or they may even sometimes mention people within that realm. And then I say there's a lot of groups on LinkedIn that you can get involved in too that I think have been good. I've met good people off of that, as well as there are a couple good meetups that happen. Like if you happen to be in the Maryland area, Jailbreak is a bar, if you will, but it's a great place where you can meet a lot of great cybersecurity professionals. And I'm pretty sure that's magnified across the nation in other places. There are a lot of hacker spaces and meetup groups that you can find. You're just Googling those, but really just getting involved in some type of, organization of some sort that's around cybersecurity is a great way to meet a mentor as well. Hopefully that helps somebody.
Yeah. So the big takeaway from this is if you want to get ahead in cybersecurity, go to the bar.
Hey, put it on a t-shirt. That's a quote.
Okay, there you go. So along the same lines, the mentorship, the soft skills are great. Let's go back to the technical skills. Are there any particular areas that you think, whether it's a knowledge base or a technical skill area that you would recommend to somebody that wants to follow in your footsteps, be the next Terry Bazemore of the world, if we can handle that? What kind of areas do you think they should focus on?
You know what? I would that's another, man. I know I keep saying that's another great question. The thing I would say I would tell someone to do if they were able to and kind of starting a career from the ground up, 3 areas, maybe I count it as 3. I would say I would go into hardware, right? Like understanding hardware is a often overlooked and I'll say not. I don't want to say respect. That's not the right word, but it's not oftentimes people look to go into hardware now. You know what I mean? And so I think understanding hardware is a great background skill to have because it'll build your understanding and foundational aspects for everything else. And then I say coupled with that, I would say networking. You know what I'm saying? Really getting a good understanding of networking. Just understanding and not networking it, that part to the soft skill part, but networking in the sense of data moving across systems, as that helps you to really get a grasp of, the basic blocks for cyber, right? The other part I would say is application and software development, taking a language and understanding how to solve a problem with that language. It can be basic, right? Take Python, just find out how to build a calendar or a clock or something, but just getting an understanding of how languages work or whatever, and how you can build an application with that is key too. So I think those 3 things together, if someone just took time and kind of touched into each one, I would build a foundational understanding in hardware, foundational understanding in networking, and a foundational understanding in an app and software development piece. They then spread into all the other things we're hearing now of, machine learning and AI and cloud computing. All these things are birthed from these areas, right? And so I think it's a great way to kind of build your career if you were starting fresh.
Awesome. We're coming up on time, so I'm going to ask you one last question. I told you during our conversation before this, you said you wanted to share with people what the dumb things you've done in your life that you don't want them to do to follow you. But to put that in a different perspective, if there's one thing, if you were starting over today, as young Terry just got told you're a bad graphics designer, go cyber, what would you do differently now with the knowledge that you have?
Do differently, I think I would embrace failure earlier, right? I think one of the things that people don't, or people take into heart, is that they think failure is a bad thing. And I think that it's based on perspective. If you fail and you sit, it's bad. If you fail and you pivot and move, it's great. You know which direction you need to go. And I think that's one thing. I didn't necessarily embrace it fully, but now I embrace the fact that I'm going to make mistakes. And I understand that I am not going to get it perfect, but I can move and pivot into a better area from that. And so I think embracing failure is what I would tell them.
That's amazing advice. Thank you, Terry. That's a great note to end this on. I want to thank you so much for sharing your experience with us in the community today. If anyone watching or listening wants to stay connected, your LinkedIn profile was pushed up on the screen. So, Terry's mentioned, please feel free to reach out to him. Thank you also for anyone that's listening and watching us live or this recording later on, today's discussion will be posted and available via both Tortora, Brayda, and AUSCF's websites and on our YouTube channels. And the Tortora, Brayda, and Association of the U.S. Cyber Forces are committed to reshaping and empowering diverse collaboration through the cyber workforce, which is the reason why you're here. I mean, you're here to help kind of push that forward. So we hope this conversation has helped our listeners, helped you, Terry, even, just have a better understanding of what that cyber professional development path looks for. So on behalf of Tortora, Brayda Institute and AUSCF, thank you. And we look forward to everyone on listening on this, joining us for our next workforce session. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you all.